home counties police and youngsters with a taste for all-night parties, but to a much greater threat to law and order. We've been looking for the hidden hand behind many of these parties, and what we've found puts a worrying new perspective on the official crackdown. There's a determination to snuff out the acid house craze, but that runs the risk of driving it deeper and deeper underground. And as Marcus Powell reports, that's where the biggest danger lies.
Acid house, the music that inspired a cult and official outrage. Pursued by the headlines and the police, partygoers are in retreat. Big outside events are being stopped, so they're back in the clubs where it all began. The all-night dancing itself may be quite harmless, but there's a more sinister reality. Parties like this are being taken over by criminal gangs. In a West London recording studio, disc jockey Evanson Allen is trying to build a new career as a singer. He used to organise parties, but was forced into early retirement at gunpoint. Armed criminals took control of his unofficial business as he refused to work with them.
The mafia's got involved, and instead of it being like nice parties, like where it was like strictly for dancing, like the firms have come in and they've started pushing drugs and getting heavy and taking over the parties and literally putting guns to people's heads, like taking money away. Like instead of it like being like a fun place, it was a place where you have to start worrying about like the villains from like the East End of London moving in on you. I've literally had guns to my head, and like other people who have worked for me as well have literally had guns to their head and been told either you stop or find yourself like a part of a motorway or in a ditch somewhere. And like they mean business, they really mean business.
At a special intelligence unit in Gravesend, police are concentrating on stopping parties in the southeast. They've uncovered a catalogue of crime and are starting to build up a picture of organised gangs at work.
Even though the intelligence office has only been running a few months, we've got some very firm evidence about major criminals involved, major criminal organisations, drugs, protection rackets, all at the background of these parties.
The partygoers themselves are left in the cold, unaware of the extent of criminal involvement. There are huge profits to be made, both legally and illegally. The music and its fans have taken over Clubland. Here at London's Astoria, they have to turn away up to 1,000 ravers every Friday and Saturday night. Those who do get in face a military-style inspection. It's all part of a night out. Here, a properly supervised security firm check for weapons and drugs. It's drugs that have been at the centre of official concern, as most parties don't have security like this. Away from licensed clubs, so-called security firms are as likely to sell drugs as search for them.
There's no doubt at all that the trafficking in drugs has been one of the major reasons for the running of these parties. And that, as I say again, is one of the main focuses that we're pursuing.
The pursuit of those who organise parties to push drugs led to this police raid by more than 100 officers. Operation Seagull was launched from Greenwich Pier 15 months ago. These pictures, released for the first time, show the culmination of months of undercover police surveillance on party organisers from London's East End. Police inadvertently caught 2 boat parties at once. More than 200 partygoers were searched for drugs. Undercover officers had mingled with the guests while the boats were preparing to leave and tipped off the raiding party. Everyone on board was questioned or searched. 18 people were arrested and 9 have so far been fined or jailed for drug offences. While the partygoers were escorted away, the search for drugs continued, although some had already been thrown overboard. But inside the boat, drugs littered the floor, just left where they were dropped. Thousands of pounds worth of cocaine, ecstasy, LSD and marijuana. This man was searched and released that night, although later, following a nightclub raid, he has been charged with conspiracy to supply controlled drugs. This man, Clive Reynolds, was strip-searched and found to have 58 ecstasy tablets hidden in his underpants. He was convicted of possession with intent to supply and jailed for 4 years. The man who helped organise the party, the so-called Lieutenant Leslie Thomas, was convicted on charges of conspiring to manage premises where drugs were supplied. Last month he was sentenced to 6 years. The General, Robert Darby, planned the party and faced similar charges. This former youth worker was condemned for encouraging youngsters to take drugs. He got 10 years. These were the first major convictions of party organisers.
It's a warning to the others who are still organising paid acid house parties that if they get caught, they're going to get 10 years plus. The maximum is 14. It was an excellent result. It's the first conviction of its kind in the country.
Why do you think the parties have become so attractive for organised crime?
Well, it's easy money, isn't it? If you're charging 10 to £15 for each punter and you're selling ecstasy or any of the Class A drugs at between 10 and £20 a tablet, that's a lot of money.
Criminals who want to control the supply of drugs at parties must first control the parties themselves. The moves on the dance floor aren't the only ones being made, as behind the scenes, security firms are competing for control. The organisers here at Johnny's nightclub in Wood Green have found their weekly parties under threat. Outside, standing with the security muscle they officially employ to protect their interests, are new faces who seem to have taken over the door.
I've got to search him anyway. I've been told to search him, all right? I'm sorry.
This man was never employed by the party organisers, yet he's taken control. Guarding the area around the cash office, where the ravers part with £15 a head to dance through the night, are more new faces. The organisers didn't hire them either. The two black men here are unofficial security. They prevented the organisers getting their normal share of the takings. The organisers, called Labyrinth, have held more than 60 parties and so become a regular target for gangs trying to take their business over. Sue Barnes should have been the cashier at the party that night.
When I got there, I was told by someone I didn't really know that I wasn't allowed in the cash box anymore. So I just thought, you know, I didn't really know what was going on. There was another security firm in there that I didn't know either.
So the party was really taken out of your control, was it?
Yeah, and it was just a terrible night. It was rubbish. I mean, most of the people that were in there were coming up to me and saying, like, what's going on? Because they noticed a distinct change. There was a sort of atmosphere in there. We didn't have our usual DJs finishing the party.
Back at the party, the ravers were mostly unaware of what was going on until the organisers announced it was all over. They'd pull out rather than stage parties. Others could take over.
By the way, this is the last night.